Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with Gareth for your episode of Talking Tactics, reflecting on and analysing Aston Villa's 3-1 defeat against Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League. Yes, it was a disappointing night. It was a tough night, and we're going to go into all of the analysis. And I don't know if it'll show anything that we weren't maybe expecting, but we'll do that anyway. Gareth, great to see you, mate. It was a tough night, but one that I think Aston Villa came out of it for some credit. I mean, they worked so hard, and to concede that goal right at the end was really gutting, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the killer for me, the third goal. I thought we played well. I thought, considering we didn't have much of the ball, we had to defend a great deal. I thought we did all right because it was wave after wave after wave. And we shouldn't forget, this is the team that knocked out inform Liverpool in the last round. So it was hard. Well, it was a hard watch, I think. But, I don't think we played poorly. I just think that third goal was really, really disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, before we get into the analysis, it was funny, wasn't it? Because 3 minutes injury time, you're thinking, right, brilliant. 3 minutes added time. Maybe you're expecting 5 minutes, 6 minutes. We've seen 12 minutes before. And I don't know whether to see that 3 minutes, maybe they just took their eye off the ball just that little bit. Maybe they just relaxed just that little bit. Especially me and Kev were talking about this. I think it was Vitinha and one of the other midfielders just started passing the ball between each other, about 10 passes. And I don't know whether just subconsciously Villa thought, you know what? Paris have probably thought, we'll take the 2-1 victory and then, we'll take them to Villa Park. It's a win's a win. And Villa thought, you know what? 2-1 defeat isn't too bad. And all of a sudden it was like bang, 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 straight through, cut inside the goalkeeper, put it in the top corner, and it's 3-1, and it's almost good night Vienna.
Yeah, I think you've summed it up quite well. I think that's probably what it was. I noticed that they mucked about a bit, didn't they? A little bit PSG, and it's almost like, they look like they're settling 2-1 here. And I think you're right. I think off all that little bit, and so you could probably say it was a 3-1 game for the amount of chances that they created. But yeah, it was hard at the end there.
Yeah. Let's have a look at the stats then in terms of the tail of the tape. Anything that stood out to you here? Anything that kind of, you weren't expecting?
I mean, look at the pressing intensity from Paris Saint-Germain compared to us. You can tell that we sat off at 20, and they're just sort of at 4 with a high press and everything. The passes per sequence, 14. I mean, it all tells, like you said, the tail of the tape is exactly what we saw on the pitch. But for 88% of that possession they spent in our final third, that's a high amount.
Yeah. Definitely. And you could almost see it right from the start of the game. It was almost like a rugby team who they'll start the game. Obviously, both teams have got equal territory. And then they just gradually just move forward like 10 yards, 10 yards, 10 yards, 10 yards until like Villa would just literally, like you say, camped in front of their box and they just suffocated us. We just couldn't really get out. And that was really difficult.
Yeah, we didn't retain any possession at all, and I think we'll see that in the later on. But they just didn't manage to retain any of the possession once they won the ball back. They did try; the passes were quite good out of the back, I thought, but they just couldn't retain it.
Yeah, passing networks. Anything to notice here in terms of positionally for both sides and the way that the passing were set?
I mean, you can just look at the average, the passing start of 67 metres from their own goal from Paris Saint-Germain compared to our 40. And especially with Marcus Rashford. That was the plan in the first half, to get Rashford try and isolate Rashford up the top on that left-hand side there for their weaker side, if it was a weaker side. But yeah, I mean, you've only got to look at where Boubacar Kamara is positioned. This is throughout the whole game, by the way, and it's just, minutes 1 to 46, and he's just so deep all the time, sort of within that back five that they dropped into when PSG were in our final third. So it was a difficult watch from a defensive perspective, wasn't it?
It was, mate. It was. And I did say this to Kev, and I don't know whether you agree with me or not. And I understand the magnitude of the game, the difficulty of the game, the pressure that Villa are put under. But like Yuri Tillemans and Boubacar Kamara meant to be top European footballers. I don't know whether I just wanted them to be a little bit braver on the ball. Like, we've seen how good they are at receiving the ball under pressure, receiving the ball on the half turn, turning their man and getting into spaces, into the half space that you say, and progressing the ball forward. I just felt they were just a little bit nervous, and I couldn't understand why. But if you want to perform on the biggest stage, you've got to really show what you can do. And I think Kamara's done that before. Like, if I think back to games against Newcastle, he's tended to be dominated by Joe Linton. And if we love him, right, but if we want him to be that top level, top tier player, he has to stamp his authority on these type of games.
Yeah, he did look a bit out of sorts, didn't he? He looked, just sort of struggled to cope with a lot of it. Yeah, and I can't disagree with you really, but I think just the pressure that they were under meant that they didn't have enough of the ball to gain any rhythm to be able to do what they do. So I think that was the struggle for them. But Kamara, for me, dropping into that five alongside Constant, it was quite a difficult thing to watch, because you needed him in midfield. You needed him to be on the likes of Ruiz and Vitinha, but it just didn't happen.
No. Quick whiz through the sonars, the passing sonars, just in terms of frequency of passing and anything like that sort of stood out to you. We've got 1 minute 1 to 46 here, and we've got minutes 46 to 94 here. So is there anything that kind of stood out to you on both?
Yeah, I think there's quite a big change in the two, isn't there? I mean, there's a bit more sort of passing. We can see the left-sided bias, which we know about from the passing networks up to Rashford and that. We knew about that. It was just a case of, could we change it a bit more in the second half? And I think that was the idea with bringing on Maatsen, was just trying to get him that little bit higher, spend a little bit more time there, keep Luca Digne on the pitch and try and get up the pitch that little bit more. But of course, then we see a sort of quite a distances in midfield and that, and the shape is a little bit all over the place. So I think they were toying between two systems and they couldn't quite figure out or get one to work.
Yeah, I also noticed that the ball just stayed in play so much. The ball didn't, like, PSG didn't allow the ball to go out of play for Villa to get any respite. They would chase, we would think that we'd cleared it, or we'd think that we'd made a tackle to put it out of play, and they would chase it down and keep it in. And it kind of reminded me when Villa first got into the Premier League, when that's what teams would do to us. They wouldn't give us any respite. We'd try and play our football, and then all of a sudden it was just coming back at us. And you could see the three substitutes standing on the sideline. I think they were standing on the sideline from about minute 73 or something. And they didn't come on till the 80th minute. So that's a long time to be sort of waiting to come on. And then, like you say, it was kind of a bit of a mismatch. They couldn't really get into the game because it was so long that they were waiting, and then so little time to play.
Yeah. And I think it all boils down to, like I said before, not having the ball. You're just not being able to get into a rhythm when you do win the ball. We can't play a normal game, like you saying. That is one of the most relentless performances I've seen from a team like that. Manchester City back in the day, when they used to be really high intensity pressing, didn't give you a moment's peace. We haven't seen that for quite a little while, and PSG really did a number on us like that.
Yeah. We'll look at the XG. And the shots now. A lot of people talked about kind of the number of shots that Paris had. 29 shots. Obviously, they managed to score the 3 goals. Only 10 on target, so they did miss the target on a high number of occasions. But Villa with 2 big chances there and 1 big chance missed. I'm trying to remember what that was.
No idea. I can't remember. I was trying to figure it out as well, but I couldn't see it on the highlights. So, yeah, it's a tricky thing. I mean, when you're facing 29 shots, the likelihood is that you're going to concede at least 2 or 3 goals, but only
Yes.
1.95 XG from them. So, I mean, it is one of them things, but should they have had more? Maybe. But I think 3-1 was probably the scoreline that they wanted, but not what we wanted.
No, no, no. I mean, there was a couple of half chances for us in that second half. Maybe Rodgers could have done better with his shot. Sort of comfortable save for Donnarumma, and Asensio was a little bit unlucky with his. I think that would have been like placed right into that bottom corner if it didn't take that deflection. So, there's a little bit of heart to be taken from it, and you've got to grasp onto the moments that you get. I'll ask you in a little while, kind of your thoughts going into that second leg, looking at the momentum. What stood out to me on this is that it, like you say, it was constant, relentless pressure, but there wasn't any like huge threat. There's a couple of moments there, but it was all like just probing, which I guess is difficult because you've always got to be concentrated. But maybe having seen the way that they operate, maybe that is like something that Aston Villa can take hold of, that experience of kind of understanding how PSG play now a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, it's hard to sort of. It's not as high as XT from PSG as what I thought it would be when I plotted it. To be honest, I
Yeah.
think you've got to be careful because in this case, attack is not the best form of defence for the second leg. I don't think. I think we've got to be careful. We like you said, we know how they play. The trouble is, if they hit you on the counter, they're so quick up top, and that's what we've got to be aware of.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I just wanted to show these two slides. We don't usually show these, but I just thought it was quite humorous to look at in terms of the final third entries, and
It,
then
it,
the half spaces is just. I mean, whoever plotted this?
I
It's like
mean,
it's
yeah,
like
I
when
mean.
your 2-year-old just scribbles on a piece of paper.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally you couldn't make it. It's just like one massive mass of green and blue. There's not sort of one sort of area, but it's 141 half space passes. You kidding me? It's just huge, and that shows you that field tilt. We go back to the 88%. In the final third. This goes to back that up for quite a little way. I mean, it's just a little bit off. Some of it I got agreed, but look how much is in that final third, and this is the relentless. You're not just having to chase the ball sort of in their half. They're actually putting you under pressure within your own half, very, very close to your goal in wide areas and getting it across the pitch. It's really hard to defend against that for 94 minutes.
Yeah, it is. It is. Little look at the sort of ball progressions: Ruiz, Kvaratskhelia, Dembele, Vitinha. Luca Dean tried to get forward. I thought he had a good game, and Rogers doing okay as well. So yeah, we knew what they have. We know how dangerous they are, and it was obvious to see. And he's a special player, isn't he? That Kvaratskhelia, he's kind of a bit of a throwback player, isn't he?
Yeah, massive. I loved him at Napoli when I first sort of saw him, and he was fantastic. They would stand out. He is an old winger, sort of socks down, and like a commentator said, a bit of a Chris Waddle type player. He is a little bit like that. But that ball roll and the stud roll for the goal was just, is incredible. He's a top player.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think there'll be too much surprises with the defensive shape, and this links nicely to the kind of passing networks. You're looking at Boubacar Kamara's position there. He's like I say, it was so difficult for him, so difficult for us to sort of get a foothold in midfield. And look at McGinn; he's like the most advanced player in that defensive shape. But I really like McGinn's performance, and he kind of ran himself into the ground for 60 minutes, but he was kind of leading that charge, but I guess he needed that little bit more backup as well. But as I say, it's so difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, he did. I thought he played quite well. He gave it everything, and you can clearly see that sort of stretched back five that's round there, and Kamara dropping in, and I don't know what else to say. It was just really
No.
sort of quite frustrating that we didn't try and at least get them up the pitch or play a little bit. Just get 10 yards outside your box instead of being on your 18-yard line. At least get a few up, but they just couldn't manage it. It was just so much pressure.
Yeah, yeah. Goalkeeping performance: Martinez, seven saves. Would he be fairly pleased with his performance? Do you think he could have done better with any of the goals?
I think it was hard. I mean, I think they sat him down for the last goal. I think that was a little bit of an error of judgment. I think maybe he could have stood up a little bit there. He was sat down a bit too easy, but minus 0.80 is not that bad from an expected goals on target face of 2.2. That's not that bad. It was hard for him. He faced a lot of shots, 10 on target there were, I think, and it was hard.
Mm. And this one just illustrates. I mean, at least we controlled our penalty box and that left hand side of it. Apart from that,
yeah, I mean that was probably Emi Martinez putting his foot on the ball in the dying
yeah,
embers of the game.
exactly,
I mean, but yeah, I mean, that left hand side, the little box here, it just shows you that Rashford was sort of, when he got on the ball, they did control that left hand side, and I think when Maatsen come on, that did help that little bit more. We just couldn't do anything after that.
Yeah. So into that second leg, you've touched on the idea of maybe not sort of going too gung ho and keeping it sensible, because ultimately it is a game. You just got to treat it as a game in isolation. And Villa have won games 2-0 before. Villa have scored multiple goals in a game before. The moments can arrive at any time throughout a game. So we know what a good side PSG are, but it's not impossible. And as you've alluded to, you wouldn't go all out attack, I take it.
No, I wouldn't. I think it's the same, almost a similar situation that Madrid face when they play Arsenal in the Bernabeu. I think one goal, the crowd get with you, and anything can happen. I think it's a very similar situation. I think if we can get an early goal, I think he's got to go back to what he knows, get that box midfield going, give them something to think about, play Luca Digne and play Matty Cash, because I think Matty Cash, even though the yellow card, I thought he did okay. He's unlucky to get an early booking, really. I think just go back to what you know, especially at Villa Park. Keep Rashford in the side. I think Rashford has to play, but I think Rashford has to go on the left-hand side, and I think they should stick Watkins up top. People will probably disagree with that, but I think you've got to have as much pace up top as you can possibly get.
I agree. I think Watkins does need to come in. I think he'll occupy their centre-backs, and then that'll leave Rashford to stay out wide, stay out on the left, and really give Hakimi something to something specifically to think about. He'll always be worried about that pushing up on that right hand side for them. What about like a left field choice? What about someone like Onana in midfield? To maybe break up play, be a bit more physical, get us distance going further, like through midfield. I don't know, just whether Kamara and Tielemans are so good. I get that, but what about sort of someone like an Onana in midfield?
I just wonder whether he's got the sort of the speed and the intensity to be able to press Vitinha and Fabio Ruiz like we need to do, like we should have done in the first leg. Just break that midfield. Somebody get out to press one of them. If you've got to come back and forward, that's fine. But pick your man and go. Pick a man and go. The thing is, the rotations that they had in midfield were incredible. It's hard to keep doing that. Yeah, Anana's a possibility. I wonder whether he's got the intensity to be able to cope with that.
Yeah, true. Well, I think Unai's team against Southampton will indicate a lot towards what he's going to do on Tuesday night. I do obviously understand there'll be a lot of changes. There'll be Marlon and Garcia probably for two of those changes. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think, like you say, mate, it's one of those where the crowd will be obviously up for it. We are not miles out of it. We didn't lose 4 or 5-1. We didn't disgrace ourselves in terms of that performance. Yes, it was a really disappointing hammer blow for that last goal, and it was, it was really a killer blow. But as you say, an early goal, staying in the game, the ability to make the substitutions that we can make. Maybe someone like a Leon Bailey or someone coming into the side, someone who's got that unpredictability about him, 60 minutes, 65 minutes gone, who can get at the fullback, someone who he doesn't even know what he's going to do, let alone the defender. So there's a few things that could go in our favour on that night, couldn't it?
Yeah, I think he'll be more conservative in terms of being aware of the players that he does select in attacking positions Are they willing to be able to chase the likes of Hakimi and Nuno Mendes back? Will they be able to do that? Would Leon Bailey do that? Maybe. I don't know. The thing is, you've got to treat it like an FA Cup tie, like a knockout tie. It is a knockout tie. It's a winner takes all, isn't it? Just go for it. At least have a go.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly. Well, we will be here and we'll be analysing it after Tuesday night's game. We'll also be back for Talking Tactics after the Southampton game, another important game in our quest for Champions League football again next season. So we need to get that win there. Gareth, all of this information will be on X, on social media. So where can people find you?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't put the last game up. I totally remember. So it'll be on at One Villa Analysis. I'll put it on there tomorrow.
No problem. Well, look, if you have missed it, and if you didn't put it on, you have to watch the show as well to get all the information. So make sure you tune into the show. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. As I say, on your way out, get your comments in. Any questions, any comments for Gareth as well, please. We welcome them all. We'll be back, as I say, for match reaction from the Southampton game, talking tactics, match preview for PSG, you name it. We've got it on this channel, so make sure you stick with the channel. Thank you all for watching, and as always, remember, we'll follow the Villa.